Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome to another video. Yes, it's that time of the week again, it's Premier League predictions time. It is, of course, another round of Premier League fixtures that is almost upon us. And of course, this is the video where I go through each and every single game to come up this weekend, analyse them, and of course, at the end, give my predictions how I think each and every single top flight division game will end this coming weekend. It's a significant weekend as well. There are some big games, intriguing games at that. But also, it's the last weekend before the final international break of the year. So, again, we'll have to put up with another couple of weeks of Southgate ball. But apart from that, we should enjoy the club football for whilst it is here. Of course, as always, hit the like button if you're enjoying the video or have enjoyed the video, whatever the case may be. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. And of course, get involved. I want to hear from you guys on this. I want to hear your thoughts, your comments, opinions. But most of all, of course, your predictions. This is a Premier League prediction show after all. So get involved in the comments section. Would love to read all of your predictions. But without further ado, let's get into them. We're starting things off at Molineux for Wolverhampton Wanderers against Tottenham for our Saturday lunchtime viewing. Big game this one between a Wolves side who have been pretty hard done by VAR in the past couple of weeks. And of course suffered a very shock defeat to Sheffield United because of it. As for Tottenham, they also are coming into this game off the back of a defeat. They lost their unbeaten start to the season, suffered their first defeat of the season at the hands of arch rivals Chelsea, of course, in that 4-1 thumping that they received on Monday night's viewing. Big game, like I say. Wolves are no pushovers. They've had a few good results in recent weeks. Last week and the week before, they were pretty hard done by VAR, in my opinion, after suffering a couple of pretty dodgy refereeing decisions. You've got a Tottenham side who everything was going perfect until they met Chelsea on Monday night. Injuries to key and big players hasn't really helped Tottenham in any way, shape or form. They, of course, went down to 9 men against Chelsea and suffered from it hugely with that 4-1 thumping at the end from Chelsea. And like I say, with big injuries affecting big players, suspensions to the likes of Christian Romero and Udogie as well, injuries to Van der Ven, Maddison, Richarlison, not really much of a loss in Richarlison, but you know what I mean. The injury list continues to grow. Tottenham fans will be hoping that Son Heung-min is going to be wrapped in bubble wrap from here till, of course, they play Wolves and then, of course, across the international break, but there is no guarantee when he plays for South Korea, of course. Big game. I think Wolves will definitely fancy their chances against their weakened Tottenham side. They'll definitely fancy their chances in getting something from this game, which is why I'm going to say that this game will end 1-1 come the final whistle. For our next game, we're off to the Emirates for Arsenal's game against Burnley as one of the 3 o'clock kickoffs on Saturday. Big game for this one. Both of these sides coming into this game off the back of defeats. Arsenal lost their unbeaten start to the season last time out with a 1-0 defeat away at Newcastle, of course, in those rather controversial VAR circumstances. Burnley also lost last time out. They lost 2-0 to Crystal Palace. So both sides really looking to get back to winning ways here. On paper, there is only one winner. On paper, there is a big favourite in this game in Arsenal. Now, of course, you cannot take anything for granted in the Premier League. You cannot obviously give anything as a foregone conclusion. Luton proved that last week with a 1-1 draw against Liverpool. So Arsenal will need to obviously be careful that this game isn't a potential banana skin for them. But in saying that, Arsenal should go ahead and get the job done. Burnley have been pretty open at the back and have failed to score goals on a consistent basis. However, in saying that, Arsenal should get the job done. Arsenal should win this game, but I don't necessarily think they may keep a clean sheet in this one. Maybe a lucky set piece or something will fall in Burnley's favour. So, with that being said, I'm going to go with a 3-1 victory in favour of the Gunners. Moving across London to Selhurst Park now as Crystal Palace host Everton. Big game for both of these sides as well, with obviously Crystal Palace coming into this game off the back of a 2-0 win against Burnley, whilst Everton picked up a pretty good point against Brighton in a 1-1 draw there last week. Big game, an interesting one. Everton started to pick up a few points in recent games, but of course they face a very tough Crystal Palace side who on their day can be a thorn in anyone's side. Palace at home especially will be extremely tough. Everton away from home, not exactly the best. So again, maybe you would make Palace the favourites. It is a game that could go any which way because Everton have picked up points in unlikely circumstances and in unlikely games that they should really be picking up points in. So with that being said, this one's tough because a draw certainly does seem a likely result. Everton winning, you wouldn't put it past them. I'm going to go with Palace. I think I'm going to give them the advantage because they're at home. So with that Selhurst Park hostile crowd, I'm going to say that Palace get the job done. Only just though, I'm going to give them a slight edge. I'm going to say that Palace win this game by 2-1. From London to Manchester next, as Old Trafford awaits the arrival of Luton Town for an away day against Manchester United. Huge game this one between two sides who picked up good points last week. United picked up a very good win against Fulham, 1-0, Bruno Fernandes in injury time being the difference maker, whilst Luton picked up an unlikely but huge point against Liverpool at Kenilworth Road. It's a huge game for Luton, away from home against Manchester United at Old Trafford. This is what their fans have been waiting for a number of years, a big time Premier League clash away from home. If they can stay in the game till the 70th, 80th minute, similarly to what they did against Liverpool last weekend, they'll have every chance of going away from this game with something. Even if they could maybe get an early goal, that could really test the mental strength and the fragility of this Manchester United squad. Because I feel like an early goal might harm United more than inspire them. It has that potential with the way that United are in chaos and disarray this season. Alternatively, if United get an early goal, it could really open up Luton and it could make things a bit easier for Erik ten Hag's side. Ultimately though, don't take anything for granted. United should be winning this game. They have the players that can create those individual moments to get them out of jail, similarly to what happened last weekend with Bruno Fernandes scoring that winner against Fulham. But they won't necessarily be entirely convincing. As much as I think Luton have every chance of getting something from this game, I think the individual quality and technical ability of some of those United players will shine through and will just give them the edge in this one. Which is why I'm going to say that this game ends 2-1 in favour of Manchester United. Our Saturday evening viewing comes from the Vitality Stadium where Bournemouth play host to Newcastle United. Big game for both of these sides because obviously Bournemouth lost heavily to Manchester City last weekend, whilst Newcastle will want to obviously build upon that big 1-0 victory, albeit in rather controversial circumstances, against Arsenal. Huge game. Newcastle obviously looking to push up the table. Bournemouth looking to put more points on the board to try and separate themselves from relegation. It is a game in which Bournemouth could spring a surprise. It is a game in which Bournemouth could obviously be very tough to beat at home. They do play some good football at times, but they just don't have the finishers to put the ball into the back of the net on a consistent enough basis, and they don't have the watertight defence that would obviously help them concede less as well. Newcastle, on the other hand, they'll be hurting from that midweek loss against Dortmund, of course, but and with their injuries as well, Bournemouth may fancy their chances against an albeit weakened Newcastle side that, of course, have got an extra 90 minutes in the legs from playing against Borussia Dortmund in Champions League action midweek. It could be a good sign for Bournemouth, this, and obviously that could play a factor in the game. However, I still think Newcastle will have the quality to get through this game, and that is why I'm going to say that this game ends 2-0 to Eddie Howe's side. Oh, if you like narrative and like storyline, this is Eddie Howe's return to the Vitality Stadium, by the way. But I think it's going to be a happy one. 2-0 to the Magpies. Next up, we're moving on to Sunday's games, and first up, we're at Villa Park for Villa against Fulham. Big clash between these two sides, with Villa and Fulham both looking to get back to winning ways in this one. Villa, of course, suffered a pretty shocking and stunning loss to Nottingham Forest last week, despite being one of the more informed teams of the Premier League. Whilst Fulham, they lost 1-0 to Manchester United, of course, in their last game. Good opportunity for both of these sides, I think, to get back to winning ways. Villa more so than Fulham, of course. Fulham's issue is they can't score goals. That's their issue. They don't have a consistent or prolific enough goal scorer up front. They're really missing the kind of Alexander Mitrovic style attacker, and Raul Jimenez just isn't it. He hasn't been for a good few years now, since obviously suffering that horrific injury. Fulham's issue is scoring goals. Villa, on the other hand, will definitely fancy their chances of getting back to winning ways, and I believe that they will do so. Being at home, I'm sure Emery's got them training hard all week. Yes, Villa do have a Europa Conference League game to contend with this week, and that could put extra minutes in the legs of some of those Aston Villa players, which could work to the benefit of Fulham. But I still think they'll have enough about them to go ahead about their business, maybe rotate a little bit depending on their situation. And of course, Emery is a very, very good manager who I think will overcome it. And especially being at home, like I say, I would be backing Villa to win. And not only win, but also get a clean sheet as well. Emi Martinez will definitely want to make up for that horrific error that he produced against Forest last weekend. So I'm sure he'll be trying to make amends to those Villa fans. As far as the result goes, I'm going for a 2-0 victory in favour of Aston Villa. Next up is a trip to the seaside for Sheffield United as Brighton take on the Blades. Obviously, last time out, Brighton drew 1-1 with Everton, while Sheffield United picked up their first victory of the season in, albeit quite controversial circumstances, but they won't care. They finally got their first win on the board in the Premier League at the expense of Wolverhampton Wanderers, and a 2-1 win to the Blades in that one. This one should have a Brighton win all over it. I know Brighton haven't exactly been the same this season. I know that they've been they've dipped a little bit, but this one should really have a Brighton win written all over it. Sheffield United know themselves they got rather fortunate last weekend. Not that they should care, not that they should be moaning about it. Of course, they're going to need all the help that they can get in trying to survive in the Premier League. But like I say, this one should be one of the more predictable games of the weekend. Not that it should be a foregone conclusion by any stretch of the imagination. Not that we should be saying that Brighton should be just given the 3 points right at kickoff. This one, of course, has the potential to be a banana skin for the Seagulls, but you would imagine it is an obstacle that they can pretty easily overcome, all things considered. I'm going for a 3-0 victory in favour of the Seagulls. Next up, we're at Anfield for Liverpool's game against Brentford. Liverpool come into this game off the back of a draw, of course. Luis Diaz rescuing the Reds last week from horrific embarrassment by drawing 1-1 with Luton Town away from home, whilst Brentford picked up a very good victory when they managed to beat West Ham by 3-2 in that 5-goal thriller there. Big game for both of these sides. Liverpool, of course, will want to get back to winning ways after suffering a big... I know it was a draw, but it feels like a defeat when obviously you lose a game being heavy favourites to Luton. They'll want to get back to winning ways there. Brentford have just hit a fine bit of form at the right time to be coming into this game and fancying their chances in. With the way that Liverpool play and with the way that Brentford counter-attack, this could make for a very interesting game that is a contrast of styles. And as we know from these two teams being in the Premier League for the past few years, we know that these two teams often throw up a very, very interesting and intriguing game indeed. So I'm very much interested in seeing this one, if I am a little bit worried that Liverpool will suffer to Brentford's counter-attack, which on their day, and if they're clinical enough, Brentford will harm Liverpool. Alternatively, of course, if Liverpool's counter-attacking is on point, they could harm Brentford. It's going to be a very fascinating game between two clinical attacks on their day. I'm just hoping that Liverpool's turns up more than what Brentford's does, and obviously turns up after obviously being missing for last week's game against Luton. As far as what a result goes, I'm very much interested in a fascinating game of football that I'm hoping will play out at Anfield on Sunday. The prediction though, I want to go for Liverpool. And I think, if I am being honest, I want to give Liverpool the edge, especially being at Anfield. So, as much as I want to say a 2-2 draw, I think with them being at Anfield, I'm just going to give Liverpool the slight edge in a very thrilling 5-goal encounter again that Brentford will be in amongst, but on the wrong end this time. So that's why I'm going to go for a 3-2 win in favour of the Reds. For the penultimate game on this list, we're in London for West Ham against Nottingham Forest as the Hammers welcome Forest to the capital. Big game this one between a West Ham side who of course lost last time out at the hands of Brentford by 3-2, and Forest who got back to winning ways for the first time in seemingly a very long time with a 2-0 victory over the in-form Aston Villa last weekend. Huge game between two counter-attacking sides. This one could be a very interesting end-to-end encounter if I had my way and if I am picturing how I'm imagining it in my head. Two sides, dangerous on the counter-attack, got pace on the wings that can obviously harm each other's back lines. I'm very much intrigued by this. West Ham, of course, started off the season very well. They've hit a bit of dip in form in recent games, but they are still dangerous at home. Nottingham Forest, inconsistent, but picked up a big win last weekend when I don't think many people were expecting them to. They have the potential to maybe win this game, but as we know, away from home, it is a struggle for them. For whatever reason, it is a struggle for them away from home. This one is unlikely to be a Forest win. You probably make West Ham the favourites. I want to call it down the middle, but I am going to give the slight edge to West Ham simply for the reason that they are at home. And that's why I am going to go for a 2-1 win in favour of the Hammers. And finally, what I believe to be the biggest game of this round of Premier League fixtures, the biggest highlight and the main event of this weekend's Premier League action. It comes from Stamford Bridge. It is Chelsea taking on Manchester City. Huge game. Chelsea, of course, coming into this game off the back of a victory at the hands of their arch rivals Tottenham. 4-1 it finished to the Blues on Monday night's football. While City, of course, coming into the game off the back of an emphatic win themselves in the Premier League with a 6-1 triumph over Bournemouth last weekend. Huge game. Realistically, there should only be one winner. That's not to take anything away from Chelsea or to take anything for granted, but this Chelsea side are young, inexperienced, and City should be taking advantage of that. It took Chelsea a while to get to grips with the game on Monday night, in terms of obviously eventually putting a 10/9-men Tottenham side to the sword. They had numerous opportunities but failed to take them until eventually, you have enough opportunities, eventually you're going to take one, right? And that's exactly what happened with Chelsea on that day. This City side should be taking advantage of that, and they should be dominating, and they should be really putting Chelsea to the sword, you would imagine. All the pressure of this game is on City, which alternatively could work in Chelsea's favour. Chelsea will have chances. It's about whether or not they take them or not. They do have a good young squad, but City should be taking advantage of that, which makes for an albeit very intriguing game that, I personally hope that Chelsea can take points off of City. I really hope they can. But unfortunately, I don't necessarily see it that way. And I think that whilst it's going to be an intriguing encounter, whilst I'm looking forward to seeing Mauricio Pochettino lock horns with Pep Guardiola, obviously there's underlying stories there of the likes of Raheem Sterling and Cole Palmer facing their former club in City. And of course, on the City side of things, Mateo Kovacic returns to Stamford Bridge as well. This is going to be a very intriguing game of football that City are smart about it, they should have no problem in triumphing and getting the 3 points. But it potentially could be a banana skin if they take it for granted. Chelsea can be tough. Chelsea can create good opportunities. But it's about whether or not they take them. And like I say, on Monday night against Spurs, with Spurs playing a ridiculously high line, with whether they had 10 men or 9 men or 11 men, it took Chelsea a while to get to grips with the situation and to obviously start taking their chances. Is that going to be the same here? And especially against City. You don't get too many chances against City, but when they do come along, you definitely need to take them. City to dominate possession, Chelsea to look to counter-attack. It could be a Poch masterclass this, but I am going to be leaning more towards City, of course, for obvious reasons, as for the reasons I've already discussed. And that is why I'm going for a 3-1 victory in favour of Pep Guardiola's side. And there you have it. Those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of all the games that are coming up this weekend in another round of exciting and intriguing Premier League encounters? Would love to hear from you all. Would love to hear your thoughts, comments, opinions. But most of all, of course, I want to hear your predictions down below in the comment section. So do get involved down there. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always very greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Premier League prediction show. And I will see you and speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Have a good one. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Speak and talk to you again soon.